Hi everybody, I'm Terry Schultz and I'm Legally Crafty, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and coming to you from Aledo, Texas. Today I wanted to show you a fun technique that I wanted to try. I saw Jennifer McGuire do it and I wanted to give it a try, and so I made a pretty card. This is the card we're making. It's not really very complicated, but it's really a sweet card. So I'm going to show you the technique, which involves the vellum, and then we're going to put this card together. So the technique that I wanted to try involves vellum, and we're going to stamp on this vellum, and I'm using this stamp set that is called, not that one, it is called Tasteful Textures, and we're using this stamp, and it comes with some dies. You can get it in a bundle with some dies. I think it's a bundle that cut out this and a couple of other patterns that are really fun. But this is the only stamp we're using out of this set today. And what we're doing is I'm going to stamp on this vellum, and I just wanted to use a really light color so I could see, this one's hard to open, so I could see the image when I do this technique. So I'm using soft seafoam for this because it kind of goes with the colors of the card, which are Christmas colors. So this piece of vellum is 3.5 inches by 5.25 inches, and I'm just gonna stamp on here kind of randomly so that it gets all over so the pattern gets all over the vellum, and I'm gonna turn it a little bit as I stamp, and I'm kind of not going to worry too much about the middle because we're going to cover that up. I do want to get a little bit of pattern in there, and then I'm going to put one right here, and I still need this corner right here. Now, what I learned is, so what we're doing is we're embossing or dry embossing on this vellum, and we're using this pattern as our pattern. And I want this ink to be dry, so I'm going to go dry it with my heat gun a little bit just to speed it along. Now, I think that's pretty heat set, so it's pretty dried. Now I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Pierce mat, just as a kind of, you could use a mouse pad. I think this mat works pretty good. You don't want to press real hard on this vellum from Stampin' Up! Because it's not super thick. A thicker vellum would work just fine, and you could press a little bit harder. For example, the vellum that comes in I think it's the Floral Essence with that suite. This is the yellow vellum, and I did the dry emboss technique on some of the leaves. This vellum is a little bit thicker than the regular vellum paper, but that's fine. And I'm using my Take Your Pick tool, and there are these ends that come with it that are like embossing ends, just a pointy end with a little knob on it so that you can emboss on this. And then I'm just going to trace around each of these leaves or patterns here with the tip, and that's going to dry emboss it, and it's going to be a little bit raised on the other side, and it gives a little bit of a white color to the vellum. And you don't want to press too hard, like I said, on this vellum, because it's a little bit thinner and you can go break through it. But you don't need to press too hard to get this done. See, I just broke through there, but that's okay. Because it'll emboss it pretty easily with this tool. And then you just trace around all of the leaves well, I call them leaves. I'm not sure what they are. They look like, kind of like they could be poinsettias to me, or at least a part of a poinsettia. So that worked for me for a Christmas themed card. So, and I'm just going to trace all of these, and it doesn't matter if you're not exact, you're going to be able to see the color through on the other side. I'm going to add a little bit of color to these because I decided I wanted them a little bit darker after I got them done the first time, but I didn't want to start with a darker stamped color because I used the, and you'll see in a minute, I used the light shaded spruce Stampin' Blend to color these in, and I'm going to show you that as soon as I get this part done. So we had our grandson here again the last few days. My stepdaughter and her husband were both working, setting up some shows. He works as a rigger, and so his schedule's kind of unusual sometimes, and she got some gigs with him doing some of them for this week. So we kept our grandson at our house, which is always fun. And my parents came to visit, so they got to see their great grandson, and they love to get to see him. He was a little shy around them this time. I think he's just at that age, and he doesn't see them that often because my parents live in Kansas. So, but they were happy to see him. We all went to the football game last night, our high school football game. It was our last home game, although I think I heard them say last night that our first playoff game is maybe going to be at home, which I'm going to miss, but that's okay. So my parents were here. They left today, and my son-in-law, my stepson, who lives in New York City, has been visiting. So he's here, and we all went to the football game. My son stayed home and babysat the baby because last time we took him to a football game, he cried the entire time, and my husband was mortified and ended up taking him out to the car and sitting with him. So he really didn't want to try to take the baby to the football game again. And my son was home. He's 24, so he was willing to babysit his nephew, and he did fine. He didn't have to change a diaper, so I think that worked well for him because he wasn't sure how to. I showed him before we left, but I think he still didn't really want to do it. So he did fine, though. The baby did fine. We did fine. We had a good time at the game. It was a little chilly, but that's okay. We won, so that's fun. My parents left today. My grandson is headed back to his house. My husband and stepson took him over there. So, and I leave tomorrow on a business trip, so I've got to get my stuff packed, but I wanted to get this video done. So if you can see when I turn that over, how that's embossed that, and it's just raised it up a little bit on the one side and made it kind of white, which just is a nice subtle effect. So I'm going to color those in now using the light shaded spruce Stampin' Blend just to give them a little bit more color. And I'm coloring this on the same side that I was using the embossing tool on. So, and this is the same side that I inked on when I used the ink. So I'm just going to color these in. And this alcohol-based markers work well for this. Some kind of permanent ink that will dry on here also would work well. So I'm just going to color these in. And again, it doesn't really matter if you don't get completely perfectly inside or right on the edge of the lines, because it's just gonna come through on the other side. You're gonna see it. You might see, if you go outside the lines, a little bit of that, but that's not gonna hurt anything. Some of this is gonna be covered up on the card anyway, and there's enough going on the card, I think, that it's not gonna make a big difference if you get a little bit outside of the lines. So I'm using this side of my Stampin' Pierce mat because I don't have the paper over the top all the way across, as you can see, and I need the dark part under this. Helps me see what I'm doing here. So that's why I'm on this side of my Stampin' Pierce mat. So my parents headed back to Kansas today. My husband and stepson took the baby back to his mom and dad. In a bit, I'm gonna work on getting packed and figure out what I need to take with me on this trip. I didn't plan it very well, and I ended up having to go to Chicago for a meeting that is Monday, so I'm flying to Chicago tomorrow, and then I am flying from Chicago back to the DFW area Monday night, and then getting on another plane Monday night. So I'm not going home, I'm just getting on another plane and going to Austin, because I've got meetings in Austin Tuesday and Wednesday. So, and I have to give a presentation on Tuesday, and I don't quite have my presentation ready because things are just too busy at work. So this is my release from the regular day job that will go away soon enough so I can do this as my regular day job. That is the plan. And then next week on the 15th, I'm going to go to Onstage, which I'm very excited about. I haven't ever been to Onstage, and so I'm really excited to see what it's all about. And I'm going with my line person, and we're going to the one in Portland, Oregon, and I've never been to Oregon, so that should be fun. I'm really looking forward to all the tips and stuff, and just the fun things that happen that I've heard about at Onstage. So, and then the week after that is the week before Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving. So that's crazy that we're already just a few weeks away from Thanksgiving this year. So now you can see from the other side how that looks. I think that's really pretty. I'm going to set that aside and let it dry while we do the rest of the card. So the next part of the card, we are using, let me find it, this stamp set, and I'm using the wreath, and I'm using these little berries right here. So I'm going to stamp the wreath, and I'm using garden green ink, and then I'm going to die cut it. There's a matching set of dies right here, this wreath, and then this wreath cuts out the stamped image, and then there are some other little pieces there. So I am just going to stamp this, and if you look at this stamp, so this is photopolymer, so that's why I'm leaving the Stampin' Pierce mat under it, so it has a little bit of a cushion. The other stamp that we used already has the rubber under it, you can see right here. So it doesn't need an extra little padding under it to help it get a good image. And if you look at this stamp, you can see this little point right here. So that's going to help you line up your die. See, it kind of lines up right there. So that point lines up with that point. So that helps to see where it fits. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this on here, and with the point at the top. And I'm going to press that down good just to make sure that ink gets good on the paper. That's like that, and that's a good image. Now I'm going to line this up. Remember my point was right up here. So I'm lining this up like this, and you can see how the edges just line right up on there when you line that up like that. Now, to help hold it in place, I'm going to use some of this purple tape, which is just like masking tape. And I'm just going to put that on a couple of places just to make sure that doesn't move around. And I'm going to cut this out, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I can take this purple tape off of here, and it just comes right off, and it doesn't bother the paper. And I can, so this middle part, I will save and figure out something to do with those. And now I have my wreath that is cut out. Now I want to take the little berry stamp, and I want to put some berries on here. And I could have done that before I cut it out. I didn't. It's just as easy to put these little berries on here even after it's cut out. And I'm just, you can put these anywhere you want and however many you want. I'm putting them where these little stems are. So I'm going to put quite a few on here, and it doesn't matter if they're not lined up or anything. I'm just stamping them on there, and I want to have quite a bit of red berries on my wreath for this card. So I hope you all are looking forward to the holidays. My husband really loves all of the Hallmark movies that come on, so that's one of his favorite things to do during the holidays, is to watch all of those movies, and I enjoy watching them with him. And one thing I like about the holidays is that I get the week between Christmas and New Year's off every year. I work at a university, and even when I worked in a company, I got that week off. And so I've kind of gotten pretty used to having a good amount of time off at Christmas, which is really nice, just to have that time to recharge and spend with family and travel a little bit. So now I'm going to let's put the card together. I'll show you what I did. So I have a card base that is very vanilla. It is 8.5 by 5.5. And I am just, or sorry, that should be 5.5 by, yeah, 8.5. That's correct. So when you fold it, it's 4.25 by 5.5. Sorry. I don't know why I confused myself there. And I am going to take a piece of real red, and I haven't cut it down yet, so I'm going to cut this down to 5.25 by 4 inches. And I'm just going to adhere this to the front of my card, and I'm just going to use the green or the liquid glue. I like to use liquid glue for a number of reasons. I think it sticks a little better where I live than the snail, and also you can move your piece around a little bit, so you got a little bit of time to kind of get things set where you want them. Now I have a piece of the DSP that matches with the Toile Tidings suite. So this DSP has the same pattern on both sides, but one side is real red and one side is garden green. So I'm using the real red side. And then for my sentiment, I have just a strip of very vanilla that is 1/2 inch by 2 3/4 inches. And then behind it, I'm putting this piece of garden green that is 3/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches. So let's stamp our sentiment. I can find it. Here it is. So our sentiment is just celebrate the season, and I'm stamping that in real red. And I want to center that on here, so pardon my head, because I want to make sure I get this straight as well. So that is pretty straight, I think, straight enough. It'll do. So I am going to glue the sentiment onto my piece of garden green, and it just goes right across the center like this, like so. So that's our strip, and then I'm gluing these to my wreath, and I'm going to just put them, I kind of want them a little bit higher than center so that I've got room for my ribbon, my bow, and my, just the way the card's put together. So I'm gonna just put a little bit of glue on the ends. If I can get it to come out there. A little bit of glue on the end here so that'll stick. And I'm just gonna put the wreath right on there. So, like so. That looks pretty good. So I am going to put the vellum down, and I want the part with the embossing that sticks up, the opposite side of where the ink was put and where I embossed it. So because I'm going to put this piece kind of over the center of this, I'm going to go ahead and put some tape on the back of this where the DSP is going to cover it up. So I'll just leave that on there so I can see where to put it. And I'm using snail for this, for the vellum to stick down. And I'm going to get a good amount of tape on there so that will stick down. And then I'm just going to put that down right in the center. This vellum piece is 3.5 by 5 1/4. So there's just a little bit of outline on here. And I know I didn't cut this real straight. My cutter didn't, my vellum didn't want to stay in place really good, but I'm not worried about that because I'm going to cover that up so you can't see that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this piece down with the green glue right on the vellum. And this could be, it depends on how you want the direction of your pattern here. It doesn't really matter, but you can decide how you like it. And then to put the wreath on here, I'm going to pop that up with some dimensionals, and I have this page of dimensionals that is almost used up. I'm just going to cut. You can use every bit of these dimensional pages, not just the little hexagon shaped pieces, but you can use all these edge pieces. They are sticky as well, and they work just as good as the rest of it. So I just cut right along the edges here, so I've just got different size pieces. And I want to put some right on the sentiment strip here. I'm going to put quite a bit of dimensionals on here just because I want it really nice and popped up on this card. So just put that like that. And then I will place some other bits of the dimensionals right along here. And so we can get this popped up. I just think this wreath popped up on here, it just looks so pretty. So you don't have to put this many dimensionals on your projects when you pop something up. For this particular one, I just wanted it to be really sturdy when it was put down on the project. There's kind of a lot of pieces on this project, so that's what I wanted to do. It's not necessary for all projects. And I'm doing a pretty good job of getting these release papers off of here for a change. Usually I fight with them and don't do a good job of getting them off. So for Thanksgiving this year, my kids both have other plans. My daughter is 20 and in college, and my son is 24, like I said. He's got plans with some friends, and my daughter is going to Austin to see her stepmom. So we are going to meet my parents in Branson, Missouri, and that should be really fun. Now I want to put a bow on here, so I'm going to use this red, that's real red ruched ribbon, I think. Yeah, ruched ribbon. That's in the holiday catalog, and I've already tied the bow. And what I do is when I tie a bow, I just tie it right on the end so I don't use too much of the ribbon, although there's a lot of ribbon in these spools, so it's not gonna matter if you waste a little bit. And so I just bannered the end a little bit, and I'm gonna put it right here. So I want to cut this one down a little bit and banner that in just like so. I think this ribbon is really pretty. It's real red, so it coordinates perfectly with the real red cardstock and the real red on the DSP and the real red ink. And that's one of the reasons I really love Stampin' Up! Products, is that everything coordinates so nicely. So I'm going to use glue dots to stick this bow on my project, and just like that. I'm going to put a couple of them on here just to make sure it's stuck down good. And I'm just going to stick it right here. And I think this is a little bit too long yet, so I'm just going to cut that a little bit more. Just like that. And there we go. I think that looks really good. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that a pretty card? I think that pattern against that red paper just looks really pretty. So we're not quite finished. I am going to use these Toile Tidings glitter enamel dots. So these are part of the Toile Tidings suite in the holiday catalog. And I'm going to use some of these. These are garden green and real red, so they coordinate perfectly with the project. And I'm going to grab one of the smaller ones, if I can pick it up. And there we go. Just put it right here. And then I'm going to use a medium one and put it in the center, and a bigger one here, and maybe put it in the center of that one, just to get a little bit of sparkle on there. Isn't that pretty? So I don't want to forget the inside, so I do have a sentiment for the inside, and it says Happy Christmas. And this is from the Itty Bitty Christmas stamp set, which is also where the other sentiment is from, Celebrate the Season. I forgot to say that. So I'm using quite a few stamp sets here, but we have stamp sets that have sentiments, and or Stampin' Up! Has stamp sets that have sentiments and images, and you could make a project like this with one stamp set that has the images and the sentiments that you like. And that is our card. I think that's so pretty. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you later.